Hello, my name is Beatrice, and I'm born and raised in California, and I live in New York City, and I'm a diasporic daughter of Taiwan. I'm really excited to be here for Honolulu Biennial for so many reasons. For many years growing up, I always been on looking at the Pacific from the outer edge, whether it's on the California coast or visiting family in Taiwan, and always looking at the water from where my grandmother lives and sort of looking towards the Pacific and imagining all these amazing wayfinders launching their canoe and sort of being so brave and finding their way in the world. And last year in New York City, we had the immense honor to receive Hokulea to remind us of our connection with water and land and canoe as a big symbol for island Earth. So being here is an immense pleasure and huge honor to recognize these connections of our seafaring memories and relations. So for me, Honolulu Biennial also is a really important moment to recognize the importance of islands in our world. And that kind of ties into what I'm doing here, because for the past, 1,000 days, I've been very focused on the story of two islands. One is Manhattan, which actually is Manhattan, and Rune, which is an island in the Banda Island archipelago of Indonesia. And during what we call the 17th century Spice Wars, these islands, there's one island in Indonesia called Rune, is so small, but it held immense importance in the world. And it was the British and the Dutch, they were fighting over it. They were trying to get the nutmegs of the island. And so they basically unleashed, hell on the local population. And in that process, they redrew the world map as they were trying to figure out who got to have monopoly of the nutmeg trade. And in the end, Manhattan, which was just a backwater trading post and no one cared about, was given up, and the Dutch gave away their colony so they could have all the nutmeg islands, the spice islands of Indonesia. So in that moment, there was a big geopolitical shift that kind of continued to shape the waves of colonization and globalization for the next, 400, 500 years. So it's a little story about a plant and two islands and how that changed the world that I've been really obsessed about. And so I bring to Honolulu an installation I call Runhattan Tea Room, like a portmanteau of Rune and Manhattan. That is a set of it looks very classic. It's a tea room. It looks very proper, but once you get into it, you realize that there are narratives that should be idyllic, ocean scenes of boats and islands. You actually see scenes of massacre that are kind of pulled from historic archives from that time period, as well as images of plants to kind of shift that human-centric conversation to think about the land. So there's a lot of botanical imagery that I've created. So the tea room is, kind of seductive, and there's scent and sights and smells from the spice trade. But once you get into it, you realize there are other narratives of how colonial commerce shaped our world. And underneath the vitrines of the tea set, there's also maps, so cartographic drawings that I've been using as my own study of the history. I think of myself as a perpetual student. So that is what, it's a very heavily research work, but I hope even if you don't know the history, as you look at it, you can kind of intuit some of the importance of the Spice Wars from another time period that really resonate with how the world is today and the importance of islands and the weight they carry. And also, on top of that, I have been also researching and learning, teaching myself, re-educating myself about the importance of plants beyond nutmeg. Because I opened one door, it led to so many more. So there's also these silk prints. So I was also interested in this time period called when the Spanish were trying to launch a trade that connected Asia, Americas, and Europe for the first time, and they had the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade. And this this big ship would just carry silk, porcelain, pearls, and all these, but also ideas, also cultures and languages throughout the continents. And they would pass from Asia through the Pacific into the Americas, and that transformed also the visual culture of the Americas. So kind of honoring that sort of interesting human connection that shaped the world, I created these silk prints that kind of emulate the composition of these mantones in Manila, that now is really embraced by Spanish flamenco dancers, but actually has such an origin in Asia and in the Americas in terms of the embroidery and the compositions and the aesthetics that now really embraces European, but really is not. And then I put the stories of, say, Afghan poppies, which is a new Silk Road. I put Malabar black pepper, which is a big history, big part of the spice trade, as well as tobacco, which is a big story also in shaping the Americas and the transatlantic slave trade. So these are all big stories that I'm slowly unraveling, so I hope people can also teach me as I go along about plants that are important to them.